light never fades in the face of evil.
Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new video. So this was my first approach in trying to make the, for me, best Archangel Elspeth deck. So Elspeth, I think, together with Ral, was my favorite Planeswalker. If you have followed my channel, you realized maybe that I always use her as my avatar. And Ral, I think I like in particular because he has this like stormy lightning theme going on, which I personally like a lot. And if you look at her, she also rocks that a little bit, so that's really cool for me. Artwork wise, but also the ability is really cool because I like creature decks, and I think it synergizes with creature decks. The first two ones, the +1 making tokens and buffing up one of your creatures, giving it flying, is pretty neat. And then the -6 also can return creatures from the graveyard, but also like permanents, like any cards. That's why I was immediately thinking like, wait, you can play teachings in this, because at first I wanted to like rebuild one of like my Avernus decks from Alchemy in Standard with this, being able to -6. So that's why I was thinking about proliferate cards that are in the colors like Serum Snare or Unnatural Restoration, but I ended up cutting them because they are not too impactful by themselves, I think, and I think you in Standard, but in each format, of course, if you play it a little higher in the constructed ladder, you want to focus on each card being like pretty much always good. So yeah, those can just sometimes not be too good, but they have spots where they definitely shine. This card though also fulfills that purpose in putting the counter on Elspeth right away, if this is before that in play, of course. But this has the advantage by just being good by itself, I think. Alright, and yeah, I called the deck Bant Escape because it reminded me, like I didn't really find a name for it, but if anything, I think it reminds me a little bit of the Theros Beyond Death set, because it was about enchantments and bringing things back from the graveyard with the escapability and stuff, and that's kind of what the deck is, right? It is about enchantments and bringing stuff back from the graveyard. I think with this one here, I'm also trying to not going too long, but I always explain a little bit. I'm trying to go over the cards as I go, like I'm just trying to make like logical connections with the synergies and stuff, so it's not like by CMC 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just trying that. I think it makes maybe a little bit more sense. So I'm also like jumping towards sideboard cards. I mean considerations, like this is a best of one deck, but this deck went through a bunch of versions, and this is just basically the final build. Like the last one I had those as a trio, had only one Catilda, and in the most games I played, I had this card in there, the Invasion of Segovia, which can flip into Seidos, a Sea Tyrant of Segovia. So maybe I go over them real quick and make this appear. Also had in there, and I was playing less Tamios. Like I changed it back in a second. I ended up cutting this card because what often happens, maybe I blend it in here real quick, that you have either Wedding Announcement or Brokers Ascendancy, especially if you have maybe a way to find it, and then you have to cast that because it's just better. Like unfortunately, I always thought when I was in that spot, not worth casting this over one of them, and then you follow up often with a Planeswalker or have to like be mana efficient, play 2/2-drops, and then on your turn 5, this is like together with something else your last card, or even if it's almost your last card or even your last card. It makes not too much sense, right? Even if you would flip it to the backside, if you have no cards in hand to spend mana on, the given mana advantage does probably not matter too much. I mean, it's still nice to get three creatures essentially, and giving your creatures vigilance, so it's never really bad if you get to flip it. But the next thing with battles in general with this deck is that this deck is not that good in flipping those battles to their backside. Like two other good examples that you probably might be interested in running in this deck in these colors is Invasion of Coppercan and Invasion of Theros. Those I was definitely also thinking about, but the thing is, we're playing like Odries and 1/1s and you know, just 1/1 tokens in general, and then we just buff them up over time. Like Wedding Announcement can give 1 buff, Brokers Ascendancy puts counters on the end step, which is super nice for blocking, right? If you're just interested in like building a wall, making some strong value plays, then having the counter on the end step I think is not actually that much of a downside, and that makes this card really strong. So this deck is really built around Brokers Ascendancy, and in a sense also therefore Archangel Elspeth, because this is of course one of the main ideas I had. But the great thing about this deck also is that it is just really strong without Elspeth, right? So it's just a 2 off. Like my main idea was trying to make the best Elspeth deck, but it's only a 2 off. But that does not matter, because you want to focus on the deck being really strong without Elspeth. And you have Tamiyo to get Elspeth back, by the way, so it's kind of 4 copies anyways. But yeah, let's go to the battles real quick. If you would flip them, of course, Kobakan would be pretty strong, giving +1/+1 counters on creatures that attack this turn. But as I just mentioned, we're not really good in attacking, so we wouldn't be able to put counters on too many creatures. And we are not too good in taking out the battles. This one is just really good though in general, I think, because it only has 3, how you call them, 3 counters that you need to remove in order to take it out, and it has this like elite spellbinder effect attached to it, which is pretty sweet on the front side, because you get to tax a card, and also you get the information about the opponent's hand, which I think is super valuable. I also talked about this in previous videos. And then one of the cool things with Invasion of Theros is that it is, I mean, it's sort of like tutor effects, like maybe also for other decks. But for this deck, you could maybe even play this and have it do something right away if you have 4 mana, because you can get a Witness Protection, which is at least better than just 3 mana do nothing, but that's what it kind of is. So I don't think it's that good unless you just really have some creatures in play and are able to take it out right away. For example, in the like Selesnya enchantments deck, you have cards like the Kami of Transcendence, or like the 1-mana Spirit that puts counters and stuff, Michiko, Reign of Truth. So you're like a lot better in taking out the invasion and get the Farah Ever Sheltering, and then you get to draw also more cards, because this deck has more enchantments than we do. We have 18 in here, which is probably good enough for Catilda, because Catilda in this deck, I come to her in a second, she's supposed to be very strong in the late game. She doesn't have to be super strong on, let's say, turn 3. But yeah, that's a really interesting card too, because card advantage is always relevant, and this thing has fucking, sorry, language, has lifelink and indestructible if you have 3 or more other enchantments, which is pretty sweet, but we're just not that much of an enchantment deck. But I think definitely a cool thing to think about as well when it comes to battles. But yeah, I ended up cutting this in the very end, but I really tried to make it work, because in my mind I was like flipping this fairly easily and then just playing a 3 mana enchantment maybe, and then holding also up Make Disappear. And yeah, that's why I also have a lot of the time Make Disappear in there, but I ended up cutting it too. I mean, this is of course pretty nice with tokens, pretty great card in general, but since I really tried to build around Brokers Ascendancy, I cut the 2 mana non-permanent cards that don't produce a creature, because you will want to really go creature into this right away. It wouldn't be that bad, but I think this is where this is best, and that's also the kind of theme I think the deck wants to put out, is trying to do something really strong in standard that might be, I don't know, maybe one of the best things, at least in the mid game, and if you have access to some nice removal spells, and they then gotta answer that, right? So the deck really tries to kind of emphasize this, that the opponent has to answer our strong thing, because this deck can be really crazy when it comes to like value on the board, like these tokens, and being able to like buff them up rapidly each turn is just, can be pretty unfair pretty quickly. But yeah, so just maybe start with the most relevant cards here. Brokers Ascendancy, Wandering Emperor, and Wedding Announcement. They are pretty established, like not too many people play this, but they can just solo games by themselves. Like Wandering Emperor basically gets a -0 ability for creating the Samurai token, right? Because it gets the loyalty counter on the end step, and then the Samurai becomes a 3/3 right away and grows then also each turn, and it just keeps doing that, and that can just win games. Wedding Announcement plus Brokers Ascendancy can just be way too much value for the opponents to catch up with, and then just Brokers Ascendancy plus Planeswalkers in general is really strong. And of course, the big idea and firstly was to go Ascendancy into Elspeth eventually, and then just being able to ultimate her right away the next turn, then getting back your cards from the graveyard. Cards that put stuff in the graveyard are the Archaeologist, Prowler, Teachings of Kirin, and the Guardian can discard cards. And then Catilda is like our graveyard payoff, same as Tamiyo. Tamiyo can exile cards from, or permanent cards from the graveyard and get them back right away. Maybe I go over here and then I go over them. So Tamiyo also is neat with the minus ability, because you can pay Phyrexian mana and then play her for 4 mana, and usually this is not that good because you can only get 1 or 2 mana things back. But what if your 1 mana thing can be actual removal? So that's also a pretty nice reason to have the Witness Protection there in the deck. It's just a 1 mana enchantment that makes creatures lose its abilities, like all abilities, and makes it into a 1/1 that is not the original creature types. I think, yeah, it also loses card types, creature types, everything. So that's a pretty solid answer, I think, to each card that actually could beat us otherwise. I don't know, like Flyers, AO, or good cards like Sheldred, the new Hazoret maybe, or even just cheap cards, right? Maybe you just have to take out the Scroll first, but then you are not back on mana advantage because you're even, because this is also 1 mana. Maybe you have to take out the Talia. Talia is, by the way, also a reason why I really tried to put in 1 mana answers, right? To not also be pushed back by mana disadvantage too much. And of course, Talia is just otherwise a really strong card versus non-creature spell heavy decks like ours. But yeah, Tamiyo can basically, if you have a Witness Protection, engrave -1 for kind of removal. And also something to keep in mind, and this then just gets returned to the graveyard. Same with the Elspeth ultimate, so you don't have to pay like Ward. Like I had a situation where they had the big Flesh Gorger and I didn't have to pay the Ward or like for Trespassers or anything. Or Athena is like really relevant. So yeah, that's a pretty cool thing with Tamiyo, but of course the plus ability just also kind of sometimes allows to get rid of a creature, but obviously often creatures have good effects to attach to it. But yeah, the great thing about Tamiyo in general is that it's just kind of a curve topper that you can also play earlier, right? If you played for 5 mana, she is on 5 loyalty, and then she can also just get your 4 mana powerful Planeswalkers back with pretty much no downside from the graveyard, which is super strong, especially if you have like a Brokers Ascendancy already in play. You not only get to put an additional loyalty counter on Tamiyo, but also on the other ones, threaten to ultimate this, get the like Wandering Emperor combo going that I just mentioned, and can just really run away with the game. So I'm pretty happy with this version. This also allows you to go a little bit around like Legend, Rule, right, and yeah, just a pretty strong split, I think, of those cool Planeswalkers. And finally trying to give Tamiyo a home, because I think you really need a kind of like graveyard theme with this, right? Because you want to be able to like minus right away and try to get something great. And the more cards you have in graveyard, the more cards like this get, I mean, they're not really tutors, but if you have like really full graveyard, they kind of are, right? This can get like lands, and yeah, you can basically just choose and pick whatever you want. And this deck is like mostly permanents. So yeah, that's why those can be pretty cool in this deck as well, especially in the later mid game or late game. And then, yeah, Elspeth, I just talked before also about a little bit, maybe something to keep in mind. You don't have to aim for the ultimate necessarily. This can also just happen, by the way, the ultimate, even if you don't have something like this, right? Especially if you're on the play some things the opponent wants to answer, then you drop this on turn 4 and they just don't have Planeswalker removal. You just fill the board with tokens. It can just ultimate anyways. So yeah, but otherwise it also can have like some winning lineups with the -2. Even by itself, let's say you're up against an aggressive deck or a deck that likes to drain. Like here I have an example where you have just some 1/1 lifelinking tokens and just put counters on them, making them into flyers and take out the Planeswalkers. So that can just be a value card by itself and put you like more in a winning position by just being the card. And then towards Catilda, those are dwarves by the way. And then towards Catilda, I went as a Dreamroot because the card is just really good in general probably, but in standard right now for sure, especially also in best of 1, because the way this deck gets beat often is because we are pretty good versus removal, like spot removal, right? Because of the tokens versus like mid-range decks. And versus creature decks, we are also not that bad because we're flooding the board with creature tokens and make them big. Like it is rough to beat, especially on the play. It still can be beat, of course, but since we are really not that good in missing land drops, we have the dogs and 2 prowlers and 25 lands. We are really a very consistent deck, and again, it's just hard to like overrun or to beat with removal spells. So one strong way to beat it is to be aggressive in the early game and then just to go over the kind of wall we built with flyers, and Catilda just says nope to that. And even if you would, by the way, then remove the Catilda, you still have the backside to also get a flyer that also has lifelink. So really good, I think, versus aggressive strategies, but also can just be like a game-ending threat by itself versus each deck in the late game, right? Because then she gets really big. We only have, as I said before, 18 enchantments, but we have all those like buff effects, like even like a teachings counter or whatever. So the Catilda is also getting very big in the late game in this deck. And then it's just an other game-ending threat the opponent has to take care about. Then I'm not able to take care of something else that is game-winning, and it just attacks for too many angles. And of course, as I also said before, you can just mill the backside. This is also like one of the main reasons why Catilda is in there. So, but yeah, also like pretty good versus like aggressive decks, as I just said, because of the lifelink. And then another card which is in there because of that, like I was in particular thinking about mono red with the Guardian of New Benalia, is this guy, because she has indestructible by discarding a card, and discarding a card is of course nice with this deck. By the way, if you are about to ultimate the Elspeth, you can, I have this also here, discard all the remaining permanent cards in your hand and like non-land permanent cards with the Guardian's ability, and then return them from the graveyard as something neat to keep in mind. But yeah, this is just pretty good versus more aggressive decks, but also in general, just in the mid to late game, being able to scry the lands on top that you need, or remove additional lands if you don't need them in the late game, and just trying to find those like key cards for the situation is super valuable. The scry 2 of this card, I think, is just super solid. Makes this basically like if you play white and some sort of creature theme, and always a good consideration for your deck. And I think with the counters from the deck, or like buff effects in general, this makes the Guardian also really strong. I think just being able to have this like bigger creature with indestructible, I think, is even more valuable. You can also like put not only counters but the flying ability onto it, and then you can enlist the next biggest creature and then hit for a lot of damage in the sky with just your 2-drop, basically, right? Giving it basically this like quote horsemanship, if you know what I'm talking about. And then, as I said before, you have those mill creatures. The great thing about those 6, as I said before, I was playing it like this before. You can definitely also do this, remove the dogs. But the reason why I added the dogs is Invoke Despair, basically, because I come to those in a second. Is Invoke Despair because I wanted to have even more ways to protect this card against this still very relevant card. Of course, right, Invoke Despair also can maybe protect a wedding announcement. Like Teaching is pretty great, but the dog there helps as well. But yeah, that's just another way to protect the Brokers Ascendancy, because otherwise, like, what they're gonna do to get rid of it? Like, not too many people run in best of one main deck enchantment hate, but Invoke is still relevant, and yeah, that's just another way to help with that. And sometimes you need a land, sometimes you need a non-land, and this just draws a card. So yeah, it's just a nice middle ground, but you still really want to mill if you can, right? And those mill and draw a card, which is super, super nice. So why I like that in particular also is because it's kind of card selection, right? Kind of maybe reminds of Corpse Appraiser a little bit. And then you can really, because you don't play too many 3-drops, you can really just stick for one of them or your Planeswalkers. And that's just really great for the card. We also only play 11 or even 12. I was thinking before we have 12, but yeah, maybe it's 11 creatures in the deck. So yeah, this mathematically should not miss that much. But yeah, even if it does, by the way, it's not that bad, right? Because as I said before, we have enough lands and the Prowler or even the dog in the deck to not miss land drops. So you're not like, oh, now I milled the lands that I needed. That shouldn't happen anyways. So if you mill lands, right, because you're not like are not likely to mill 2 creatures with play 11, it's not bad, right? Because you just write lands to the bottom. Like, you would have drawn those lands so bad, right? And that's like, it is good, even if you miss technically, as something to keep in mind. And then the Prowler, really nice at just finding that land. Even like having some land selection can be pretty cool. Would be also pretty neat with, I mean, cards like this in general would be pretty good with the Argoth, especially also cards like the Circle of the Land Druid from Alchemy or the Eccentric Farmer from Standard, who can just pick any land from the graveyard, would be pretty good. And then finding Argoth, if you would play that in particular, of course, together with Titania. Shigeki could also help with that, like those, except of the Farmer I also play in the Avernus deck, or Avernus decks from Alchemy, so that's definitely something you also want to keep in mind when playing Argoth, and that's also then maybe a reason to maybe play more Prowlers if you would play this. Yeah, we were pretty much through there already, so I'm just going over them. Maybe I go over this real quick, but yeah, the reason why I didn't play the Argoth main deck, I definitely had it in there in the beginning, same as the Titania, is that it is a tapped land. I only had Slogurg, Titania, I started with Shigeki, also a thing, but even then it's like most of the time tapped. In this version it's always going to be tapped, and you really, like, the first land can be tapped. That's maybe okay because you don't have to really play maybe this one, but you don't really want to play this on turn 1 most of the time, I think. But on turn 2 you want to go untap land, untap land, untap land, untap land. If you can't play your Ascendancy on turn 3 or your Waiting Announcement, if you can't play a Wandering Emperor on 4, can't double spell on turn 5, it can just be absolutely backbreaking. And yeah, that was pretty much the reason why I cut this. Otherwise, it's pretty great, right? Because not only does it mill the graveyard, but it also creates a token on each turn. Maybe you know, like the Carson Ardenvale from Historic or Old Standard, which created just 1 token for also like essentially 5 mana each turn, which was pretty good actually. But in this deck, it's a 2/2 and it's buffed very often. You have, like, even if you have just a flipped Waiting Announcement down there, making them into trees, but obviously even better if you have a Brokers Ascendancy. Those beers growing each turn can just in the late game be pretty nasty and hard for opponents to deal with. So yeah, sometimes I had this in the past. They just scoop to the Argoth, which is pretty cool and appealing. Like you want to put this in there, and I definitely tried it, but I would not do it if the cards that I'm casting are just so strong. There is no need for something like this, right? That's the idea. Like, we have so much gas, so much value. You don't want to tap this 4 or 5 mana most of the time, right? Sometimes you want to, and then you would like to have an Argoth in play, but I think in more scenarios it's more relevant to be able to curve out than just to have this in the game for maybe later. Then Titania, of course, makes sense in this deck as well, being able to flip into the Gaia Incarnate, pretty strong. You have the life gain going on, which is always nice in best of 1. The 4 toughness is really good. It has reach, which is really relevant in protecting your planeswalkers versus like pesky flyers like Phoenix Chick, or like Red has the Shivan Devastator. Like, that's another, or I said this before, I think that there's a great reason for Catilla to just her half flying, being able to protect like Elspeth and stuff. But like, Elspeth can give flying, but you will often want to like plus make tokens, buff up the tokens, and go for the ultimate. So having reach or flying is really nice because of for that as well. Okay, so last jump, Elspeth Smite, new card from the set, deals 3 damage to a target attacking or blocking creature. The nice thing about this is that it can also exile. It's just another 1 mana answer, can kind of mana cost even answer Talia, which is cool. And yeah, that's just another good 1 mana interaction spell. And I think now we are through with the main deck. I'm going over the sideboard cards. Maybe the lands. I have 18 white, I think, 15 green, and 14 blue. So I really try to focus on having as many untapped lands as possible. That's why I cut down to 1 Spara's headquarters, but you should still be able to cast all your spells. And as I just said before, it's really nice to go maybe for turn 1 tapped land, then untapped, 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 untapped. Not also having too many pain lands. I think it's 5. Would have to look real quick. I know it's 6, I think, 3, 2, 1, but yeah, it's not too bad. Like, you have, of course, some double colored spells, and you have the Brokers Ascendancy, but a lot of them are still just 1 mana colored, so the pain lands shouldn't be too bad, and 6, I think, is a fine middle ground. But I also only have 5 fast lands, so you should not have too often in the late game just like, oh, tap land top deck, I need a Deanta, but it still can happen. We've played 5, but yeah, you have enough untapped lands, I think, on turn 2. And enough untapped lands for the late game, but of course it can still happen, but it shouldn't happen too often. And of course you have the channel lines and the basic here, so I think pretty good mana base. I spent a ton of time on it. If you have those, you could just definitely copy it, but of course it's standard, it's expensive for 3 color decks. That's just how it goes. But yeah, So that's the bottom half. If you would like to run counterspells, I think you also can definitely consider Geistlight Snare, because you have at least the Catilda and the Teachix, who makes a spirit, and Teachix spell itself makes Geistlight Snare cost 1 mana. Of course, you don't have too many spirits, but the enchantments instead to pretty much have this like mostly all of the time, or most time, make disappear mana, but sometimes you can cast it for 1 mana. So if I would run a counterspell, I would probably even consider this over make disappear, but both of course great options for that purpose. And yeah, cards like this can be obviously nice if you miss wild cards, like any of these cards from the side, but if you already have them, like the Denik, most people have, that you can just play instead of the Guardian. Maybe it's just another good thing that you can find by milling. Another good Disturb card. Probably don't have to tell you anything about Denik. It protects your graveyard. Lifelink is pretty good versus aggressive creatures. The Pious Apparition can provide you with card advantage. The thing is, we just don't have too many creatures for the Pious Apparition, and the main problem with Denik in this version is the Tamio, because her -X ability targets, and then you can't use that. So that's kind of a nombo. Another nombo would be Extraction Specialist with the Denik, but the Specialist also we in this version, or I in this version, cannot play because I don't have enough 2-mana creatures to consistently use it often. Like essentially on turn 3 you cannot use it unless you milled a creature with one of your mill cards, but we play 11, so it's just not good enough for this deck. But something like Extraction Specialist also is something to keep in mind. And then another cool Disturb card is Malevolent Hermit. The backside can be relevant if the opponent runs counterspells, but the front side pretty solid. Just 1 mana answer to more expensive, like over-the-top non-creature spells. Pretty nice, and definitely a consideration for the deck as well, but it's just tough to beat Catilda. I don't think it's possible for them. A good value card would be Tameshi, maybe also the Reality Architect. It's in the colors, right? White and blue. It can reanimate, like we have a bunch of cards in the graveyard. It can reanimate enchantments, draws cards, just a really value orientated card for the late game in particular. I talked about him already in my blue-white, I think was that version, Artifact Legends deck for standard best of 3. So I think in best of 3 this is where it's best, and maybe for this version in best of 3 this can also be great. And then you could run Shigeki. I also had this in the very beginning, I think, but the problem I had with this fella was because you have to activate mana for using it. I mean, if you activate the first ability to get a land onto the battlefield, you kind of make up for this, right? I was thinking about this at one point. If you play this on turn 2 and then activate it right away, maybe also have like a 1-drop or a tap land that you would have to get out the way. Anyways, you get the mana, 1 mana of those 2 you spend back the turn after, right? Because you have that extra land that you can use to spend mana on, and then the turn after that you can use that mana again, and then it kind of paid for itself. So Shigeki's mana cost on the first activation can be broke to even, I think, pretty fast if you play it on turn 2 and use it rather soon as something to keep in mind. But in this deck you also cannot really do that because you have those 3-drops and stuff, and also the channel ability is too expensive, I think, for this deck. Like, I definitely have Shigekis in my Avernus decks, and that's also a reason why I was considering it. It's also like an enchantment, which is a little bit synergistic. But the thing with the Avernus decks is, and why the channel works so nice, is because you also put a bunch of creatures onto the board, then you chump block, the thing is, in Magic you just don't have time, right? The opponent just pressures either your cards with value or pressures your life total with creatures, and often they just pressure you so much as soon as turn 4, 5, 6 that you just don't have time. So you just sacrifice your entire board to the last strong attack of the opponent, hold up a bunch of mana, channel a Shigeki, and then win right away with Avernus. You can't do this in this version, right? Because the kind of similar card would be Elspeth or Tamio to get back Elspeth. But even if you do that, you don't win right away. Like, it's not like one of the Avernus decks that I built for Alchemy. So yeah, even if you have a Brokers Ascendancy, Elspeth just goes to 6 loyalty on the end step. You need to win right away, I think, to just get back all your cards from the graveyard and have something like Devilish Valet or something. But otherwise, this is also a pretty cool consideration. Modern Age, also pretty cool, is a spirit, is a enchantment, especially if you would run the Geistlight Snare. It gives you fixing, also another cool thing you could maybe play instead of the Spirited Companion, because also even if you have too many lands, you can get rid of extra lands if you have too few lands and need lands, so it's like a flexible fixing card which you can cast in turn 2, definitely also a consideration. And you also have the flying creature who can, as I also said before, protect your planeswalkers, for example. So definitely also a cool consideration, especially also if you want to maybe save some wild cards, like maybe you don't have 4 teachings or something. And yeah, that's pretty cool for proliferate. This I just mentioned before, but maybe this in particular is pretty nice because it's instant speed. Like the best card for that kind of type, and that I would maybe actually run in this version, maybe then over something like Elspeth's Smite, even though the 1 CMC still might be better. I'm not sure about that, because as I also mentioned before, one of the best things against this deck is Talia, and you kind of cannot put a 2-mana removal spell on Talia. You might be able to, but is drawn in Ichor, so that's obviously different colors, that's black, but that would be actual removal for most things, not for Shelly, but for most things, because it gives -4/-4, and this just bounces, right? That was also one of the main reasons why I got rid of this, I think, in one of the earlier versions where I ran this. But the cool thing about this is over also something like Drawn in Ichor, that it is instant speed, right? So you can have instant speed, flip Wedding Announcement if this is something you want to do, but even better probably, right, is to put extra counters on one of your things. Put an extra counter on your planeswalker, so the opponent is not able to finish it off. But like probably better to be able to buff your team ideally, but also just works with a single counter, of course, to then just get a profitable double block out of something, or multiple profitable blocks with just single blocks with multiple buffs. So that's something really nice, I think, with instant speed proliferate as well. And yeah, something to keep in mind. Oh yeah, and Slogurg I forgot to talk about. Also, yeah, it's just a cool graveyard card. Works nice with channel lands, being able to return your lands from the graveyard. Really decent card in a graveyard orientated deck. I just pivoted to more of the cards it's just mentioned for the mentioned reasons. So yeah, like it's not as good as the other cards. I don't think. I have to remove a card from the sideboard here. Let's double this. But yeah. Maybe you can look here one last time. And yeah, I'm going over another version here real quick. Like the games who are coming up are about the Bant Escape version that I just showed. But this one I also was trying with the new card Dusk Legion Duelist. 2-mana 2/2 Vampire Soldier, which has Vigilance, but the great thing about this is, of course, the draw ability, which triggers each time only once a turn, but each time a +1/+1 counter is put on this guy or this lady or whatever. So that's, I think, really cool as well in a Brokers Ascendancy deck. Like I have an Elspeth in there because I like her and because she's good in that, right? She also puts the counters on the Duelist, and Planeswalkers are in general great with Brokers Ascendancy. So in this deck I have a bunch of ways to put counters on this, with the Generous Visitor, Teachings of the Kirin, Ascendancy, the Planeswalkers, and even the Invasion of Cobacon. So Visitor is pretty nice in this deck. I only have it as a 2-of, like that was like one of the main ideas I had, like why not just play the enchantment with the Spirits theme a little bit, but I only have it as a 2-of because it's not good in the late game, and you can definitely play more of it, especially if you are more budget. But those cards are just way too strong. I think, to make not plays for them with cutting a little bit in here. But also you're able to play this card, I think, here, because you are attacking for a lot more than the other decks, so you are pretty likely to take it out. And you have creatures that didn't do already something on EDB, so being able to protect them is probably more valuable, in particular, of course, interesting with this card. And the Dusk Legion Duelist is, I think, also a card that you might not want to be playing on turn 2. Another reason to play a bunch of 2-drops, because I think a nice thing that you can do is go, for example, Brokers Ascendancy, and then go 2-drop, 2-drop, right? they might tap out for their Fable, their Sheldred or something. Then you get the at least one draw right away, which is pretty nice. In particular, of course, if you would have already this in play to protect it. But yeah, this might be where this might be best. But otherwise, because like one of the first things I was thinking of with him or her including it in the deck, because it is a strong card, right? But I was afraid of removal, right? Because if you just remove it, like nice strong 2-drop, but it is strong in a sense, right? Because if the opponent is forced to get rid of this powerful card that only costed 2 mana, it can like screw up their mana efficient turn, right? Their proactive turn. Like if they're not playing a Fable or something good on the turn 3 and use a Go for the Throat, for example, to remove this is pretty strong, right? Then you can, for example, follow up with something proactive good and put it onto the board, and the opponent is then behind, right? So that's something I think nice to keep in mind with cards like this. Another one would be maybe like Giada from the Mardu Angels, right? That's just a similar effect that you might have encountered already, or like Skrulf is a good example. The Flame Stoker from the like is it Spellslinger's deck, which you might not know, but it is also pretty much the same thing. 1 mana card that has a pretty strong effect attached to it to be able to draw 4 cards in the, if you are very spell orientated mid game even, or at least late game, but the opponent has to remove it. It's just a 1 mana card. And it's the same thing with this. So this just being able to force out removal spells can be maybe even good enough. And if that's the case, this version I think has a lot of potential as well. I have something blended in here, and you can just get back, of course, cards of from the graveyard with Elspeth as well. You have this like combo with the Brokers Ascendancy with her. So yeah, definitely also I think a strong deck to try. In particular, if you already have like more of these cards, like from like the spirits decks or enchantments decks or whatever. That's this one. Like the main reason I think why I was not playing this too much and featuring it in the video is like the mana kind of like, right? You have the prowlers, the dogs. Yeah, I have 1 dog in here because of that, and please don't cut it because of that. But you can miss your 3rd land drop, and there's just too many, even in best of 1 where it's like where you have maybe like a little more protection about it because of the hand smoother. If this even is a thing, you still lose a bunch of games to being mana screwed, and the other deck just makes it rough, right? With the 2 dogs and the prowlers and 25 lands. This also has 25 and 1 dog, so it shouldn't happen too often, but it can happen. And yeah, but if it does not happen, it might just be better than the other one. Maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe this might be even more powerful, and I'm definitely trying this. I was playing Ozolith. Right, I was also thinking like, how can I make the best Ozolith deck? How can I make the best Duelist deck? And then I ended up cutting it, I think, for the dog or something like that, or an extra Elspeth. But yeah, I also have some considerations. Like I will post both of the list with its sideboards, like in these cases, of course, considerations in the description, so you can get them, and those are for that deck. Like Ozolith could be pretty neat in a deck like this, right? With Brokers Ascendancy. I also had that situation, of course, in the games I tested. Just being able to put 2 +1/+1 counters on the end step is great, I think, but oh, my alarm is going off, but doesn't matter right now. Is great, I think, but it might just be win more. So yeah, but going Ozolith into Ascendancy is not great. Going Ozolith into Catilda is not great. Going Ozolith into Wedding Announcement is not great. So that's one of the main reasons why I cut it. Weaver could be maybe nice because it also can double the counters, I think, with the Brokers Ascendancy. But yeah, these are my 2 versions. Yeah, I said in the beginning also I think that I'm trying to not make it too long. Success, yeah, not really, but yeah. Anyways, I hope you have some fun with the upcoming sweet games for standard constructed Mythic that I was recording for this video. I think they are pretty cool. In the last one, I even make a voiceover. I was trying that as well. And yeah, maybe you can let me know in the comments if this is something you would be interested in. Like a cool part for me, by the way, is that I don't have to like edit or cut the audio, because I obviously turn down the audio so that me talking is not too silent, and this actually allows me to have a lot faster of a editing process. So maybe I just keep doing it because of that. But the main disadvantage for me is when I talk while games. Yeah, if I just go like people talk, explain my thoughts and things, and then like I time out, or I just oversee something super obvious that I would have been able to think about, because you think obviously a lot faster than you talk. And yeah, maybe I do the talking for like less try hardy gameplay. Like I'm trying hard when I'm do like a little higher like Mythic games. But yeah, I will have to see, because I definitely like make a lot more misplays, I think, when I'm talking, but I can maybe try it in the future. But yeah, now we'll shut up my alarm there in the background because it's annoying. And yeah, have a nice time. See you next time. By the way, I don't know how many videos I'm doing for the new set. It is exciting for me, and I also talk in the end about it real quick, but I have like other stuff that I'm doing right now. But yeah, there's enough content creators, I think, for you. And yeah, let's see how this deck does now. And yeah, ciao.
Imasa. We are past. We are future. in my sword. This is our fight to win. Next time, choose peace. Form up on me! Ready arms! always rises again.
I offer you another chance for victory!
Yo, what's up, fam? Yeah, I'm like trying to add some voice to this with this last or these last couple games. Usually I'm not doing this, because what I found is that actually most of my losses potentially are towards poor decisions, and yeah, I can't really, I think, talk and play, at least not to the degree I would like it to be. Maybe it's just a experience thing, so I'm trying it for now. Let me know in the comments if you prefer this or not. So here it's interesting, like, I hate mulligans in general. That's just the general mindset I have. So I'm the kind of guy who just keeps this, but I cannot keep this, I don't think. If it would be an untapped land, maybe. I mean, one untapped land just enables the entire hand, of course. We have Elspeth's Smite. I would like to keep this. I'm just tryharding here, and this is just a too easy way to lose, I think. Just don't draw the land and lose. Also, we can't play the 2-drop on 2. We're under play, we don't have an extra draw step, so... This looks a little better because we have the untapped land, but it's still not ideal. At least we have 2-drop plays. This is especially good on our turn 3, because that happens before their turn 3, so we can counter the like Fable or Waiting Announcement, Raffine or whatever. So I'm gonna keep this, and then I ship back the Wandering Emperor potentially, because I have at least a Smiteless interaction, even like earlier interaction if necessary. I can also like double spell for the 2-drop, as a 2-drop into 2-drop into 1-drop, hold up. Also maybe make disappear, so I'm gonna take back the Emperor, which is the most mana as well, of course. I think I have to like make sure that I'm like talking clear and full, like articulating myself properly, because I'm not used to listening myself to, like, I cannot listen to myself, I cannot review, like I can after the video check. So I think I'm playing Teaching CS still, and then for next turn maybe hold this, or probably just play on curfew with the Waiting Announcement. Like after the recording here I can check how I spoke, but I cannot like make any adjustments. So if I'm not speaking clear, I'm sorry, because this is a thing I sometimes do. Okay, so opponent played a Plaza. Could be one of the new. Does not look so new now. Could have been one of the new Legends decks with like Hazoret. Okay, so this is one of the best cards versus us. That's the reasons why we have some 1-mana interaction cards. So am I willing, like, I can hold up, make disappear, and then still smite. Would I like to smite now? Could also Eiganjo now. I don't think so, because I also have make disappear up. So if they would play Raffine, would I like to counter it? I think so, right? And I can still play Waiting Announcement next turn. I think I just hold back. Like if they don't play anything, that's fine. If they play a 2-drop, I probably counter it. I think I hold back. I don't like it, of course. Talia is one of the best cards versus decks like this in general. That's I think why it is important to have. I think you don't see when I click on deck here, but I have I guess you saw it already in the Decktech. I have 6 1-mana answers. That's decent. That's not ideal. We'll use our card here, but then we can't take out the Talia. So is Teachings better than taking out the Talia? They might also just not attack. They are relatively high ranked, so they maybe could get that idea, but we can still play the Waiting Announcement. I'm not too scared about the Talia, but it's obviously not ideal. Let's yeah, I can't use to make disappear with the Talia, but I guess if I could take it out. I think it's close. I'm gonna use it, but it's close. I think it's not obvious, because the Kirin is not that relevant as of right now. Both would have been fine, I think. Yeah, they might even decide to stay back here, because we are on the play, but we'll see. And if they would have stayed back, like, why would I have wanted to hold up the smite? It's all about chances, how the chances were. The chances were probably not too good. They do attack, like, but if I would have held mana open, they were even less likely to attack, I think, so, yeah. Play the Waiting Announcement or whatever we draw, that might be better. I have to play the Eiganjo here, unfortunately. But we gotta play out our cards. Cannot draw, because this obviously has Summoning Sickness. Then let's see if they have like a 4-drop like Sheldred or not. We'll attack here, of course. Looking not ideal here with the land draw, and if they play a 4-drop, we are unlikely to be able to attack with at least 2 creatures next turn to trigger the draw effect of our Dream Mana enchantment here. This does allow us, if I block the token here maybe. Elspeth is 2 power, I power up the Teachings. Teachings needs a creature, a non-creature spell, we have that. Teachings is a 2 power, would I like to trade Teachings? I could just make a token with Teachings and just trade the Elspeth Smite for that. How valuable is this token? Yeah, in this case I think I just let it through, because then Adeline being on 3 power is irrelevant if I just want to trade it with Teachings. I think this is what I'm gonna do. Like, since we have the buff, this is better in general anyways. Not sure if I'm missing something here. I think I just let it through and then make a token, I think. Oh, that's interesting. I will probably just double spell then. And I could also like hold up 1 for Talia and trade. And either way I will do this, I think. I'm probably not planning to trade because we'll flip Waiting Announcement next turn. We'll probably not plan to trade tokens, so attack all I think, and then we'll make a token, or will I put a counter on something? What is next turn? They have but the Waiting Announcement is not flipped next turn, so if they hold back, but I guess we will remove Talia. They could also play Rafine, EO. The counter is also nice. It just plays a little bit better around removal. But they only have like Urtai, like Clunker removal. Maybe they've go for the throat, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, like if I know there's a Brokers Ascendancy on top, I definitely make the token. I'm not sure. I think I put a counter on something. Like the card that Elspeth cannot get. And then probably try to make something bigger. Since 1 power is enough to take out Adeline. Let the damage happen. Go full control, I think. I guess they could not have cut down. That's just an automatic thing I do. So they're still like in the blocking step here. It's something you can do to make sure that your damage resolves, and then you could hold this for Guardian, but with the Talia in particular, you want to have your 5th land drop in play. Draw the card. Probably not going to be relevant in this matchup. The Boseiju, maybe against the Plaza. Yeah, against the Plaza maybe. Potentially worth holding. But again, we are facing Italia, which I might take out here. But the thing, I mean, it's nice to have the counter in there, but we still... Oh, we can't... No, we can't attack into Adeline because they get a 3rd creature. And they cannot remove the Talia pre-combat. She creates tokens. Adeline makes tokens. That's a pretty good card, I think. So, do we want to take out the Adeline or the Talia? Because Talia at this point is not as problematic anymore. Like, we don't have anything going on. I think we're just forced to interact with the Adeline and then only attack with 1 creature. Hold 1 creature back to maybe double block with it. Maybe take out Boseiju here. But at their end step, so that they can't... Yeah, I think this is what I'm going to do. So they can protect Adeline next turn. It's rough. Hard decisions, as usual. Yeah. It's not easy. We are at their end step, right? I never really... Like, this hovers not, so I think this hovers, right? It's my turn, so yeah. But I think that's what I have to do, like, because I have to, like, they might just not play anything first main, and then they have open mana, and then I can't block an Elspeth Smite. And this is not gonna be better than this, right? So... Just gonna use it. And if they would have another 2-drop like a Denig or something, they cannot play it because it is the end step. Would be funny if they didn't have a land, but they definitely have at least the Esper. Not a basic type land, they have at least the Esper tri-land. Emperor is obviously a great draw. Now I can't. Do I attack with both? Because I can take out the Adeline, but the problem is if they don't block, since Adeline has Vigilance, I cannot take her out with Emperor. But on the other hand, I'm always playing Emperor. It's not like I'm holding the token back play and doing the before the scrap play, right? I'm always playing the Wandering Emperor. I also have the option to hold back the token and then just put a counter on it. But then it might get blown out by Urtai. Urtai would also be a reason to main face the Emperor, I suppose. I mean, either way, Emperor probably, because of... I mean, I could hold back the 3-3, as I just said, but I don't want to get blown out. But we get both blown out by counter and removal, which is both airtight, by the way. But yeah, I think I'm attacking it. I might just main face the Emperor, even if they take it, but that sounds weird. I could take out the Talia, make another token, have 2/2s because of Wedding Announcement. Can threaten to double block Graphene. I really want to play around Urtai, I think. Like, having this Wandering Emperor in play can be so useful. Maybe I'm just holding back the... I don't know if I'm timing out here. Yep, I timed out. This is not the worst scenario. Like, I kind of pushed it here because it's not that bad if this happens, but now we can, the cool thing now is now we can block with the 4/4 and we can respond with Emperor. So this is not that bad. I mean, I knew the clock was running out, like this is not the worst scenario. I think I would have not done that. It's fine, it's totally fine, I think, but I think I would have maybe just did not attack and played out the Emperor. Okay, this is not a deal for us. But this is better now for us. Even have the option to crack Clue plus Elspeth Smite. This is better for us to pass there, because now we get to resolve Emperor and get to surprise. Alright, so what are we going to do? They cannot instant speed because of Talia, they cannot like cut down or anything. I'll let this resolve. Could also make a Dreedree. Block the Tal. I guess that's what I'm going to do. Just make a token. Sure. Pretty sure this is what I'm going to do.
Then guide it like water.
Then do I even care about the Adeline?
Let your blade do the talking.
Not sure, man. Like, what is this Elspeth's Smite doing for now? I mean, I think for now not. Like, Elspeth is kind of being shrinked down significantly, so I think I keep it this way for now. We are at 4. I have the Clue versus the Prowler. If a Wedding Announcement, this is a 2/2. Prowler can get a land. If it gets an untapped land, have 6-2, have 2 mana left. If I get an untapped land, and if I would like to crack the Clue, we are untaxed. They might just have another Talia in hand then. So I could draw. I think in this version I have a Make Disappear still in the deck. Like, I can check it, which would be good. Yeah, maybe I crack the Clue first in case I had Brokers Ascendancy, because that I can still play. The blue mana has to be untapped though. Let's just do this. Okay, this is good. We'll just use this, I guess. Right now, just not trying to not time out here. And then, do I want to minus? I think I want to minus again, so let's attack. And I play the Prowler, so I think I can attack all. We want to end this game because they have good top-end cards in general. So let's attack all. Again, we're making enough blockers to protect the Wandering Emperor. And maybe I hit a Boseiju? Not a Boseiju, a Otawara maybe. Eiganjo I have in play. Boseiju I have cast. Could also hold the smite. Yeah, should be still in the deck. Gonna get the untapped land. It would be nice to have second blue. It's unlikely that I need. The only punish would be like a oh, didn't make my land drop. I could hold it still because of the top deck like a guardian. It's nice. Oh, that's close again. I think I hold it because again I don't have. The only punish is like I have the same amount of guardians and what is his name? Fallaji Archaeologist. I have three of each in deck. With the Archaeologist, oops, wait, what? Why does this hover up? Do I lag? Oh my god, is it lagging? Wait, what the hell is going on? I tapped my mat. Wait, what the hell is going on? Wait, what is going on? This is weird. I never had this. This is not a sort of. Oh, we have first strike plus smite, which is cute. So I think we do have lethal. I do not. I can put him down to 1. I can triple. Can block the trees. So let's do that. Yeah, just put it on the Prowler, doesn't really matter too much. Oh god, did I... Wait, what? This was another visual... I have to look at the footage later, like this, it just looked like the Prowler was not even there, but it's there. That was weird. Maybe that's just me right now. Wait, oh, I'm on 1? I didn't even realize that I'm on 1! Oh no. I didn't even realize that. No, I'm on 1. How am I on 1? Well, how was I on 3? Wasn't I on 4 before? Disaster. Oh no, it's fine, it's fine. I'm a clown, because they have to block here. Unless they have a second Sheoldred, it's probably fine. Yeah, this happens when I do voiceovers. I'm like, like everyone else. Scared cat. They could have... They cannot have Otawara, but let's still do this thing, I guess. It's a little risky, but... Now let's do it. Not that the full control not working is actually, I think, more likely than them having, like, fading hope, so... Tens. I have enough green. Tens gaming opponent. Don't play the card. For fuck's sake. Do not play it. This is so stupid. I hate this. Oh wait, no. If this had like... Oh, I guess these still would be... These still would be tapped. Wait, I can draw an Emperor, but those are not tapped. This is so dumb. How was I on Dree? I couldn't have done anything else, though. I think I played it good. At this before, I had this like timing out situation, but it turned out ideally, I think. So I think it was okay. I'm always looking up over the games afterwards and seeing if I could have done something differently, so I will do this, but as of right now I cannot remember a bigger misplay, but yeah, I mean, they just had a second Shelly, whatever. Nice skill. Okay. So I'm not sure if I will do another one, maybe one more. Yeah. Maybe not. Maybe not. Okay, so thanks for watching so far. I think you can let me know in the comments if you prefer if I talk. But I'm not sure if I prefer it, so... But yeah. It's a new set. It's pretty cool. I'm not sure how many videos I will make though, because I also want to do other stuff. It's like unfortunate timing that the set is out right now. Like in that last video I uploaded, I made this like joke, like when does the new set finally drop, because I am excited about it, but at the same time I have other things that I'm planning. So I'm trying to do like a compromise. I'm not sure what the English word is. And try to do some decks, hopefully, and other stuff at the same time. So yeah, I'm excited about the cards because they are really good in comparison to what we have gotten in the past. I think pretty strong set. So yeah, excited about it, but I'm not sure how many decks I will do in the near future. But I think you have enough content creators to follow on that as well. So yeah, thanks for watching and have a nice day, people. Party people.